Hello, I am glotchimo. I'm the engineer behind the Tango bot. For those of you who don't know, Tango is a Discord progression bot. You can add to your server and customize to log activities, track user progression, create some sort of achievement in your server, among some other neat features for organization and administration. In this video, I'm going to walk through sort of freeform a full setup of the bot in a new server, start to finish. I'm going to cover every topic that I can. I'm going to go into as much detail as I can without boring. So this will be a pretty thorough video talking about the bot, what it can do, and how you can get it set up in your own server and maximize its potential. So first of all, there's some setup stuff that needs to happen before you can use the bot. You need some roles set up. Um, so, like I said before, Tango's a progression bot. So, um, at its core is just activity logging. You don't need to have progression with it. If all you want to do is log certain activities, whether it's matches or meetings or game nights or raids or whatever, you can just have it do that and log those activities and have those analytics that come with it. But another significant part of the offering is it provides progression. And so if you want to have a progression structure, make sure you have those roles created in your system or in your server before getting the bot set up. That'll be helpful. Of course, you can change this later on. If you want to add more levels, you can. If you want to take some away, you can. All of it's configurable, but it's helpful to have some levels set up. So I have a server template here that's got a handful of levels. You'll also need some role that you can give the bot admin permissions. Now, when you set up the bot for the first time, if you try to do anything without server administrator privileges, it'll block you. So the first thing in the guide, well, that is if we have Tango installed in the server. Well, okay, we'll cover that in just a second. Let's get Tango installed. We can cover the rest of the roles and setup in a second. So we have a web app where you can manage the bot and also add it to your server. So I'm just going to hit this link and it's going to spin up in Discord and I'll be able to add Tango to this server. Now, it's going to ask for a handful of permissions. You can read through these yourself. Just know if you uncheck any of these boxes, it might cause some unexpected behavior. I'll cover some of the Discord or some of the Tango privacy and security stuff in great depth in a written post, but know that the only data that goes into the bot is what you submit to it. So it's not farming user data, it's not reading your messages, it's not even really looking at your server configuration. All it does is store user IDs and log the stuff that you put in via the slash commands. So I'm going to go ahead and authorize here and get Tango into the server. I am, in fact, a human. There we go. So we've got Tango on the server now. And so when you get the bot in the server, obviously we need to have some security. We don't want people to just start, running commands and setting stuff up because that could get messy. So there's this set permission command that starts it all out. Um, if you don't have an admin, a server admin role, as in when we look in here at the role, if it doesn't have this permission, then you won't be able to do anything. So this set permission command is limited by that server administrator permission set. And if you don't have that, you can't do anything. That's to protect your instance from getting screwed up by randoms. But what you want to do is you want to set this bot level admin on some role. As you can see, it won't work if I don't have that admin role because of the server admin privileges. So we're just going to add that and then set up the permission level for this admin role. Now this gives me access to everything in the bot. I can do all things in the bot now. I have permission for every command. Normal users do not. So normal users are only going to see if they run this help command, it'll just show them the commands that they have access to. Obviously, we're an admin, so it shows us everything. But if I take away, or if I set the permission of this admin role back to general, and I run this again, it'll just show me a limited subset of commands that I can use. Okay, let's go ahead, set the permission back to admin here, and get started with our configuration. So the first thing that you're going to do when you have your permission set up to actually flesh out the logging part of your bot is create variants. Now, throughout this guide, I'm going to switch back and forth between the Discord UI and the Tango UI. You can set up your bot 100% without the web app just in here, and you can set up the bot in just the UI. So whichever is easiest for you, you can take that route. I'm going to show both of them. Let's just start with the commands. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to add what's called a variant. So a variant is a type of activity. I'm just going to say, we'll just call it a raid. And let's say it's worth 100 XP base. So this is the amount of XP that a user gets for participating in a raid toward that particular requirement. So we're going to create that variant. Now you notice that it calls us to reload. The other commands require us to basically reload these all these commands to have the raid variant in them. So we're going to reload really quick. And then we'll go on to adding fields. So fields are what you see when you're logging it. So you'll see now this log raid command appeared, and there are these default fields, host, participants, and duration. Those are all critical to the function of the bot, so those come by default. But you can add any kind of fields that you want. So let's go ahead and add a field here for raid. And let's just give it a title. Notice the description here, put some constraints on what you can call it. As you've probably noticed, Discord/commands have certain they have certain constraints around what fields can be called, how long they can be, types and whatnot. This walks you through all of that. It'll give you a nice error if you use an uppercase letter. We're just going to go ahead and use lowercase here. We'll say the title of the raid. And then we can decide what kind of data type it is. Obviously, this is going to be text. Then you can also set whether or not it's required. So this will make it so people can't log a raid without filling out that field. And then we'll talk a little bit more about this field later, but basically what this is if the field is filled out or true, then it'll apply additional XP to the base 100 XP. So we can add one that does that later. So we added title. Let's go ahead and add maybe, let's just say successful. Was the raid a success? And we can make this Boolean or true false. And we'll say this is required as well. So you have to fill that out. And then the XP, let's say you get 50 bonus XP if it's successful. So we'll go ahead and add that. And then let's just add one more optional field called notes. We'll make this a text field. We'll say it's not required, no additional XP with that. We don't even need to necessarily add this required field, so we'll go ahead and add that as well. Now, again, you'll notice if we go to log a raid, those fields don't appear quite yet. That's because we have to make sure to reload whenever we're adding these configurations. It's best to do all of your fields and such before you reload because you don't want to spam the command. Discord has their rate limits, and you shouldn't run into them. But if I'm setting up a really complex Tango setup and I'm running reload like every second, it's gonna rate limit, and then you're gonna have to wait before you continue working with the bot. So now you'll see that when we go to log a raid, we've got all those additional fields. So we've got the successful field, the title field, and then notes. Now, before we start logging, got to do a couple things first. In particular, with this variant itself, we need to set what's called a template. So when you log an event, it produces a message as a result. So I'll just log a raid. Let's say I'm the host. We'll say my alt is a participant. It was for just 30 minutes. It was not a success. Raid on Tango server. I don't know. It was a disaster. So when I log this, it's going to get created in the database, but you're going to notice it's just blank. There's nothing here. So we have to fill out the template that basically formats the message, the log message, when it gets created. Now, this can be a bit of a tedious topic because it uses a templating syntax and Discord Markdown syntax. So if you're familiar with stuff like this for like title, less, title, uh, footnote, on a space. If you're familiar with formatting stuff like this, it'll be a little bit easier, but I'll cover this more in depth once we get into the UI. There's a convenience command called get template that will auto generate a basic template format for the given object that you put in the variant that you put in, and it'll include your custom field. So if I run get template like this, it'll give me this template file. As you can see, it's kind of maybe intimidating. There's some brackets and symbols and stuff in here, but you'll get the hang of it. There's a deep guide in the support server as well, and we'll cover kind of how this works in this video. But you see, it gives you a basic template here to work with. So I'm just going to go ahead and download this real quick so that we can work with it here. When you have this file, the way you work with it is you can just open it up in any text editor. So whether that's Notepad or TextEdit on Mac or whatever your preferred raw text editor is, that should work. Make sure that you don't open it in something like Microsoft Word or Google Docs or anything like that. Typically, when you save those, it saves them as a proprietary format. That's a whole bunch of other data in it. We just want the raw text like this. So I just opened it in this basic text editor. Every operating system has a basic text editor in it, basically. Um, and so let's take a look through here. So again, this is auto-generated standard with the fields that you have. You'll see that it includes the host here. It includes the duration. And then it has these custom fields. It uses this syntax where you say index dot fields and then the name of the field. And this is how you inject those values into your page. You can see here this range thing for the participants list, because it automatically splits up the participants that you include. It ranges through them, so it iterates through each participant, and then it prints them out with this dot, and then ends here. And then you have your ID in here in monospace, and then a spoiler around the XP edition. So handful of things going on here. I'm just going to go ahead and upload this. Again, we'll talk more about the nuances later, and maybe we can do a little customization on it right now. But for now, let's just get it uploaded. We're going to say this is for the RAID variant. We're going to grab the RAID template, open it, and then send. And this will load the template in. It'll do a validation check to make sure it's formatted correctly. And there we are. We've got our template in. So if I go to log another RAID, I'm just going to copy this for time's sake. We go to log another RAID. Now it's going to display the full log information. So we've got our template set up. We've got our field set up. Now we need to add our progression stuff because this opens up a whole new part of the app. Actually, before we do that, before we start adding our levels, let's do another variant. Let's set up another variant, but let's do it in the web app. So this is Tango UI. If I reload here, I should be able to select this new server Tango setup. And then you'll see some stuff pops up in the sidebar here. So this is probably going to be generally empty. There's not going to be a lot of data here. As you can see, it's logged kind of a handful of behaviors and things like that. But we have these variants and levels fields. So we're going to start here in this variants page. You'll see we already have our RAID here. It's got its fields. It's got the template, and you can edit all this stuff in here. But let's add a new variant type. Let's just call it meeting. And let's say the base XP of a meeting is just 10. 10 XP, it's not worth as much as a RAID, but we'll add some weights to this variant type to make things interesting. So we've already gone over fields. Let's just add some fields simply. Maybe we'll say topic, the topic of the meeting. As you can see, I've already filled out something like this before. We'll make that required. Go ahead and add that field. And then we'll say notes from the meeting. We'll make this required as well in this case, just because notes are important. It has the default fields. We'll just go with that. Oh, let's just say importance. Or no, 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 no. We'll use weights to indicate importance. So we'll just have topic and notes for now. So let's go ahead and add some weights here. So this is this is where you can basically multiply the base XP value of the event. So we're going to add a weight called well, let's say casual, and that doesn't do anything. That doesn't multiply it at all. That is a 1x multiplier. That's just to indicate what kind of meeting it was. And then let's say um, urgent, and we'll say that multiplies it by 2. And let's say community wide, and this will multiply it by 3. Kind of arbitrary weights here, but basically when you go to log stuff, you'll have these weights and it'll multiply this base XP value. So if it's a community-wide meeting, everyone who participates will get 30 XP instead of just 10. There's also a template editor here. It'll show you that default, and it'll give you kind of an idea of what the options are. Let's fully customize this template. We'll create one from scratch just to go through it. So I'm going to go ahead and start it off with the topic. So I'm going to say index fields, and then we're going to grab the topic. Okay, that's going to be the title of it. And we'll say we'll use block quotes. How about that for our notes section? So we'll index fields and we'll grab notes. So that'll show all the notes. And then down here, we'll say participants, and we'll do the same sort of syntax that we used before where we range through this high-level participants list. I put it on the same line here so that we don't get a whole bunch of new lines, because we obviously want our stuff to be nice and concise and clean in the Discord channels as they appear. So we'll put our participants on there. And then instead of doing the typical stuff, let's do some footnotes. And we'll say hosted by, put the host for duration. And then we'll have another footnote with the ID. And we'll just not put the XP at all. Okay, we'll go ahead and save that template. And we'll see that looks like that. And that should be in the database now, and we should be able to log stuff if we reload. So now we have this meeting variant. Let's jump back over to Discord, hit a reload, and then try logging a meeting. So we see the log meeting command shows up. Let's say Tango hosted it. Me and my alt participated. It was a long, arduous 2-hour meeting. Talked about a lot of stuff, mostly in binary. Hard to understand, but tried to take notes. Let's say some arbitrary binary value as a joke. Get it because robot. Now you'll see we have these weights in here, and we'll say this was a community-wide meeting, and we'll go ahead and log it. It looks like there might be a bug with the template saving here, so I'm just gonna grab this and upload one manually for now, and I'll figure out why that didn't work uh, at a later time. I'm going to reuse this file so that it doesn't save as rich text. Set template, meeting, grab that file, send it. Let's see if this works. There we go. Okay. There we are. So there's our custom format. You see we've got our ID footnotes and stuff down there, duration notes, etc. This UI is freshly out of the oven. On launch, it might have some hiccups like that, but hopefully over time things will smooth out and we won't see issues like that in the future. But so we've got our two variants now. Let's set up a progression structure. So we have no levels configured here. We'll start over in the Discord to add levels, just so we get an idea of both sides here. So let's add a level. We'll grab level one, and we'll say the prefix is L1. We'll talk about what the prefix does in a second. You'll see when we go to fill this out, there's some optional fields for the amount of XP that's required to reach this rank. Because this is the base level, I'm going to leave those all at 0 because you can just have level 1 when you join the server. So this has added level 1 to levels. Prefix L1 will be automatically updated if in the nickname. I'm going to go ahead and edit our nicknames so that we have that L1 bit in them. I'm going to do the same thing to the alt here. L1. I always forget how to spell this backwards. Tog. Okay, so you'll see we have this prefix. If I set up profile management in the settings, it will automatically update those values, or at least it'll update the alt's values. It won't do mine because I'm the server owner and it doesn't have permissions to do that. But that's why we have the alt in here, so I can demonstrate the automatic profile management. Which I'll turn on right now with the set command. There's a set command that this gives you a bunch of your guild settings. We'll talk about all of these in depth a little later on. There's also a page in the app for settings. It shows you how to do all that. You can turn it on here, hit save, and that'll auto manage user stuff. I'll also turn on auto promotions while we're at it because I'm going to show that off as well. And hopefully those things apply automatically. Let's see if the UI works. Yes, they're saved. So those settings are set. Let's go ahead and get into adding more of these levels. So we added that one level. Let's go ahead and add level 2. Say it's L2. Now, when it comes to these figures, the values that you put in here are totals, not increments. So that it'll make more sense when we get to level 3, but just know when you're filling out these XP values, it's the total amount of XP to acquire the given rank, not the amount that they need to get in the previous rank toward the next rank. The system automatically calculates all that when it's setting up kind of the progression features and whatnot, but when you're configuring, you need to use totals. So let's say you need three raids, which each one is worth 100 XP, or it would be 2 successful raids in order to rank up to the next. No raid hosts, you're only level 2 or level 1, I guess, before this. So you don't need to host anything. And let's say you need to go to at least one meeting. So that's this level. We'll also set auto promote on this one. So what'll happen is if you reach these, if you fill out all of these levels, or if you fill out all the requirements of auto promote you once you log enough activities to the next level. So um, actually, I guess we should put this on false for the first one. We can do it on the next one because I want to show how to use the promotion commands. So anyways, we'll add this level. You'll see it has these requirements now. Go ahead and add level 3, L3. Now this is where the totals part becomes important, right? So instead of writing 300 XP again, because that would mean nothing, I'm going to say 1,000 XP. This means you need to get 700 additional raid XP on top of the 300 from the previous level. So you got to do a little bit of math in your head, but shouldn't be too hard. And we'll say you have to attend 90 XP worth of new meetings. So that's maybe a couple community. Maybe that's a little too much. Maybe we'll just say 50 total. So 4 more meetings or a community-wide meeting and another meeting. Still no host requirements on level 3. How about that? We create that level. And we'll add another level 4, L4, of course. This one, let's just go all the way up to 2,500. And we'll say you have to host 3 raids in order to get to this one. And meetings, you have to have, we'll go up to 150, and you have to have, let's see how many meeting hosts. Let's just say you have to host 1 meeting. And then let's add level 5 in the UI. So 2,500, 3, 150, 1. We'll go to our levels here. As you can see, all of our levels are in here. And we go to add a new one. The role prefix is going to be L5. The role name is level 5. We need to grab the Discord role ID. So we'll jump in here and we'll grab that role ID. Maybe it'd be nice to have a role drop down here in the future. I'll keep that in mind as I continue developing this. And let's say the first one was 2,500. So let's say this is 5,000 and you have to host 10 total. And meetings, you have to have 500 worth, and you need to host 10 meetings as well, total. I'm going to create that level as well. So now we have our 5 levels with all the requirements. I'm going to edit one of these to do auto promotion. So let's grab one of these. We'll say level 3. We'll turn auto promote on. Boom. Okay. Now we've unlocked basically the progression side of Tango. A lot of this is exposed with this check user command. So if I check the alt, it'll pull up this progress card. So obviously we've already logged some events. So he's got the necessary XP to move up to the next rank. You'll see that there's no host requirements in here because they're already all set up in here. There's also a profile in the app that anybody can access that shows their stats and whatnot overall. So let's go ahead and promote this guy because he's overdue for promotion. There's also this list command for administration's sake, list overdue promotions that'll list everybody who's overdue to get promoted. So let's use this. We use this promote command. And we'll say L1 omiktolg. Say met Tango requirements. Welcome to the community. We'll go ahead and hit enter. When we submit this promotion, it gets queued up. And so it doesn't automatically happen. The only time promotions will happen automatically is if a level that they're in is on auto promote and they reach the requirements. So somebody who either has the admin permission set, like we do, or the promotions permission set. So you'll see we can also say, let's say level 5s can promote people. So there's this promotions permission set that allows them to approve promotions, but it doesn't give them access to the rest of the administrative tooling. So let's go ahead and approve this guy. And our auto management should be on. It doesn't look like it is. So he didn't get updated quite properly. Let me make sure that this is on. That's okay. I'll update this manually for now. Maybe it'll work on the next one. But essentially when the bot has the right permissions, and maybe I'll just go in here and I'll give it a bot admin for demonstration's sake. When the bot has the right permissions, then it will update those values automatically, and hopefully now that we've given it full permissions, it'll do it on the next one, and I'll look into whatever happened there. Anyways, so now if we check his user, you'll see he's on to the next rank. So obviously there's a bunch of meeting XP because we logged stuff, but you'll see he has 700 XP in raids before he gets to the next rank. So let's go ahead and log some more activity. We'll log another raid so you can see kind of the progression happen. Say Omi participated. It was a hour, 30 minutes. This is the duration format. You see the examples here. You can use hours and minutes in that sort of combination. It'll show you an error if you type in something like 1 hour. We use hour 30, and yes, it was a success, and this was a raid on the enemy. We won. Log that raid. Now, if we check him again, you'll see he's got some more XP towards his next rank. Promotions don't only need to happen, though, if the user is ready to rock as far as requirements go. So I could promote him right now. We would call these merit promotions in S.O.R. And let's just say, doing a great job. Well deserved. There's also this degree parameter where you can set how many levels up they should go. We're going to just keep it at 1 for now because we only have 5 levels and we don't want to blow through those too quickly. So this queues up from level 2 to level 3. Hopefully now the permissions will work in this server. I still might not have it set up correctly, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to approve this with this approve command, and it'll run through. It still seems like something's wrong with this server setup. So that's on me for not creating the server correctly. But um, the auto management stuff does work. It's been in use in the other beta servers, so don't worry about that. It's just I screwed something up in here. Um, oh, I know why it's happening. It's because yeah, okay, this is actually an important point for your setup. The bot role has to be above your rank structure. So it has to be up here. If it's not, then it won't be able to edit anybody who's in these roles. So that's a really important point, and that is why that didn't work. Um, because of that, let's go ahead and demote. Let's go ahead and demote him so that we can see the auto promotion happen. Actually, now that he's in L3, we can watch the auto promotion work. Okay, so now we have all these additional requirements. You can see he's still overflowed because of all the meetings, and now he's that's finally kind of run out. So there's gaps all over here. I'll use this opportunity to show the adjustment command. So if you want to award XP outside of activity, you can do that with this adjust command. So I'm going to go ahead and adjust him and give him almost all of what he needs, and then we'll log an event and see the auto promotion happen. But what you can do with this is, let's say we want to give him 1400 raid XP. So we want to get him right up to the line, and 3 hosts. I want to give him 90 meeting XP, and let's just say 3 meeting hosts. So he gets some extra there. What this will do is it won't change his total activity. So there's also an item in check user where you can see total like raw activity of what they've done. As you can see, he still just has 3 raids and 2 meetings. Not a lot going on here, right? But with this, it affects his progression. So when we check his user card, his progression card, you'll see now he's got all of those values in there. So this can be useful for doing rewards. If you demote somebody or if you give them a new rank and jump through the progression structure and you don't use the promote command, whatever, you can use this to kind of fix up those requirements. We do that sometimes as well. Like if an old member joins and we give them their old rank back, then we need to make sure that the gap is filled up to their point so the bot doesn't think that they're only a cadet or whatever. So we use that adjust command to do that. Adjustments are also entirely reversible. All of this stuff can be undone. So if I want to use this ID to delete this adjustment, I can, and that'll undo the addition. These values can also be negative. So you'll see is right here. Hopefully, because we turned auto promotion on, when we give him an event, it'll auto promote him to L4. If I remember which one we turned auto promotion on for, let's just find out. So we're going to log a raid. I was the host. When we participated, it was 2 hours and 43 minutes exactly. It was not a success, but that shouldn't matter because we'll still get 100 XP. Failed raid on the base. It went terribly along that. And I'm not sure if I had auto promote set on that level specifically. Oh well. So now when we check him, he should have his full requirements all filled out. Yes, he does. Let's grab, let's promote him and see if we fixed our permission issue. Met Tango, Tango requirements. Grab it. We'll approve it. And it still didn't work. So it's okay. So something is definitely wrong with the server, and that's my bad. Um, So I'm going to update these manually. It doesn't, it's not like you can, if you don't want auto management on, that's why it's a feature. I know some people wouldn't want the bot managing roles and stuff. It's perfectly safe. It only removes the roles that are relevant, and it only messes with that part of the nickname. It won't mess anything else up. But again, to each their own, you can set it up however you want. As you can see, we're now in the next thing. Um, I guess an important thing to demonstrate here is what happens if, let's say, I reset him to level 2. So if I don't adjust him at all and I reset him to level 2, it's going to think he's got a whole bunch of XP and stuff extra and he's overdue for promotion. This is where using a negative adjustment might come in handy. So let's just go ahead and do that. For demonstration's sake, we'll say negative 1700 raid XP, negative, well, I don't know how many raid hosts he had, but, and then we'll do negative 120 meeting XP. And then when we check him again, you'll see that he's back down to that level. Um, Obviously, he still has this nickname bit, so it's up to you to change that if you change stuff manually and want things to be indicated. You also don't need to use prefixes at all. If you don't want prefixes, it's a completely optional feature. I know we use it in S.O.R because it's easier to kind of just scan and read where people are at. But if you don't have a need for that, or you don't want to mucky up usernames, that's totally fine. Um, it is totally up to you. Excuse me. So there's sort of how the progression structure works. Again, apologies for the auto management not working in this server. I didn't test out everything correctly before doing this, but know that that's how it works. It just removes the role, replaces it with the next one, updates the nickname, so on and so forth. Let's talk about some of the other stuff that Tango can do. Um, so there's this list command, which is pretty useful for admins, especially. I already showed the overdue promotions command. That'll show every promotion or every member that needs a promotion. So if they're at requirements and they're ready to be promoted, that's what that'll show. Pending promotions will show all the promotions that are queued up. So I'll queue up a promotion for him just to demonstrate. Did a very good job. And we'll say list pending promotions. And this will show, okay, we've got a pending promotion here. This can be useful if you've got a lot of promotions like queued up. You can use this to make that a little bit easier. There's also this approve all command. This will approve every promotion that is pending. So you'll want to use this command first to see, and it explicitly has you confirm in the command that this is what you want to do. You want to approve every single one of the standing promotions. But if you run that, it will, oh well, because I've jacked with all the stuff, it isn't a valid promotion. But if you use that, it'll promote everything that appears in this list, or it'll at least attempt to. It'll show you a summary of any errors that happened, and you can investigate those how you will. There's also a deny command where you can deny promotions, and it'll basically just cancel them and make it so that people can't approve them. So it'll take away the ID and it'll say, denied by whoever denied it. In the list command, there's some other things. You can list, you can list your levels. So if you are doing an audit on how that looks, you can list out your levels. It'll show how many people are in the given level. So you can kind of see a brief distribution of your ranks. It'll show you how much the base XP values, how much the increments are, etc. So that can be used for doing quick audits on your rank structure. There is an ability to list your custom fields. So if you want to live 100% in the Discord and you just want to manage stuff in here, you can. You don't have to use the UI. This can be a useful command when you're doing that, so you can see what kind of fields you have going on and what your custom variants are and such. There's also a weights command where you can see the weights that each variant have that you've configured. Um, Now let's talk about LOAs and inactive members. So you might have a system in your server where you get rid of inactive users every now and then. So we call them purges in S.O.R. And this is where you basically you can configure your server so that if people aren't active in a certain period for a certain amount of time, then they will be marked as inactive. They'll show up in this list inactives list. Obviously, this won't happen for us because we've got our stuff going on, but you can set your thresholds here. So let's say if they don't achieve an S.O.R, we do if you don't achieve 3 hours within the last week, then you're considered inactive. But you can tune this however you want. You can toggle whether or not to check leaves of absence when you're checking an activity. So users can, well, I'll set our whoops our set I'll set our LOA role, um, which is or it's AFK. This is the role that gets assigned by the bot if a user goes on leave. So if you want them to be able to indicate that they aren't around or that they can't participate in events, you use this. I can't remember if this takes, oh yeah, perfect. So it uses the AFK role. And if I say go on LOA, I'm super duper busy, then I can I can indicate that I'm not participating in events, and if this is off, then it'll exclude me from that inactive list. So this is how people who are, say, busy but usually active can avoid getting purged and excluded from events, things like that. With this, like if I were to log an event, I'm the admin, so it won't add any roles to me or anything like that. But if I have the LOA role or I'm on LOA and I try to log an event, by default it'll take me off LOA, so it'll cancel my LOA, but you can set that command in here. You can turn that off or on so that if somebody participates in an event while they're on vacation or while they're on a break, but they don't want to be too active or whatever, however you want to set it up, you can tweak that to your specific needs. Um, as you can see, this is all editable in here as well as the UI. You can set a default number of days for the LOA. So part of the LOA system is it will remind, based on this duration, it will remind users to come and renew their LOA. So let's say I go on LOA and I just disappear and I never come back. Um, my LOA will automatically end after that duration has passed. But before that duration ends, one day before, Tango will send a DM and say, "Hey, you are your LOA is about to come up. You need to renew it." And that's how people can kind of keep on top of it, and you can tell if it's a legitimate LOA or if somebody has just fallen off the face of the earth or what have you. I guess the only other command we can. Oh, no, okay. So two things. Is our relay channel. So this is if I set this relay channel, either copying the channel ID or using the channel mention, um, this will send basically log events in this relay. This is useful for moderators, so I'll go ahead and I'll log a meeting, say. Um, and if I log a meeting and it's 30 minutes long, um, went well. Things were discussed. I don't know. If I log that, it will show up in here. So this can be useful for just kind of seeing an audit log of things that go down. It'll do this for promotions if activities are edited, a whole bunch of various things. So this is useful for admins to see what's going on at a high level. There's also the activity feed in the dashboard where you can see everything that's going on. You can see all the interactions and all the activities. But this can be a useful like in-server thing, and it shows a little bit more stuff than the activity feed does, as far as edits and deletions and stuff like that. You can see that it canceled my LOA record because I participated in an event. There's a demonstration of that in the works. And there's one more setting in here, I think, to discuss. There's this activity rollover. So, activity rollover is, as you noticed when we were running through our progression here, that the alt had all these extra meetings and they kept overflowing into the next ranks. So you can set this rollover percentage. By default, it's going to be 100. If you don't want any activities to roll over at all and you want all the extra stuff to get cut off once they get promoted, you can set it to 0. If you want them to get 50% toward their next rank, excuse me, you can set it to 50%. So what this will do is, let's say it was this case where we had a whole bunch of extra stuff. Um, all it would do is when they get promoted to the next rank, their rollover can fill up to 50% of the next bar. Um, so it's the percentage is how much of the next level's progress can they get out of their surplus. So if it's only 10%, then it'll limit it to here and it'll cut off the rest, and it'll create a negative adjustment automatically to cut off the rest. Again, this is all stuff that can be reversed. Um, but it can be helpful if there's some hyper promotion happening, or if you haven't quite set up your rank structure right, or if you just want things to be a little bit more grindy. You can set this rollover percent to limit how much people get toward their next rank and how much they can like stack their progress. Um, what else? We went through permissions, we went through templates. There's a reset progress command where it'll automatically create a negative adjustment on them and reset all their progress. So that can be useful if they're a rejoining member, or if they broke a rule and it resets them, or whatever. Um, you can set it up like that, or if like you don't want to do like a prestige system or something like that, you can use that to easily reset them without having to calculate what their exact progress is and look at all that. In check user, there's some additional stuff. So you'll see you can look at your total activity, your promotion history, this week's blank. So this will fill in with whatever variance you have, and it'll show what they've done in that week, and it'll show links to all those things and when they happened and whatnot. In this particular build, there's also you'll see some other things here. You'll see service record and match history. So these are Halo specific extensions that you can add. They come default again in this build, but when you're watching this video, they might be optional extensions by that point. This just shows like Halo information. This is Halo specific. There are other extensions planned for other info and whatnot, but that's what those settings look like. And I think we're kind of nearing all of the features to cover. We've gone over levels, we've talked about variance and weights, we've talked about promotions and approvals and adjustments. Okay, so here's one. There's a check roll command where you can get a high level overview of everybody who's in a certain role. So that can be useful for doing mass audits on people's progress. There's an audit command that'll export a CSV, a comma separated values file that you can load into like Google Sheets or Excel or whatever, that reports all member progress. So that can be useful for doing really in-depth audits. There's deletion commands, so you can delete and edit values. You can do that stuff again in the UI. Oh, here's one. So role exclusions. So you can use this exclude command to take a role and exclude it basically from all the bots, a bunch of the bots function. So like, let's say you want to exclude, you have like an inactive role or something, and you want to exclude those people from these overdue promotions lists or something like that. You can set it up so that They won't show up in here and clog things up. It can be useful for kind of cleaning up if you have members who go inactive or are quarantined, or however you have your server set up. That's how you can exclude those from your lists and organizational things. Um, there's an export command and a quick start command. This is where you can basically share configurations between servers. So I'll demonstrate that real quick. If I use this export command, it'll give a this Tango file, and I'll go ahead and download this, and I'll open it up in this text editor. And it's this big. It's called YAML. It's a type of syntax. It exports all of your settings and all of your variants, your levels, etc. This can be useful if you want to set up a new server or set up demo environments. You can use this. You would use this quick start command and load that file in, and it would load up all of those settings automatically. So this is also, this also opens doors for some default configurations where you can just set up a server in a snap. Of course, you'd have to mess with the roles a little bit because the role IDs are going to be different from server to server. But that can be useful for getting started really quickly as well, and you can share that stuff around. It's also useful, like if you want to make a sandbox server where you play around with stuff, you can use that export command and have a shot for shot copy of your production server. Um, we've got our logs. We did our quick start. We talked about reload. Again, reloading is important only when you have edited stuff that affects commands. Seeding adjustments. So this is a sort of a danger zone kind of thing, because this will create adjustments automatically. But what this will do is, let's say you have updated your whole rank structure, like you've updated all of the requirements, like you've changed how much XP is required to go from rank to rank. When you change the levels, it doesn't automatically edit everyone's progress. So what you might need to do is use this seed adjustments command, which will basically take everybody in the server. It'll look at what level they are and how much they have towards the next rank, and it'll adjust them according to the now existing rank structure. So this can be useful if you do a big rank change and you want to adjust everybody all at once. You can use the seed adjustments command to do that. If you don't confirm, it'll produce a CSV of all the changes it's about to make. So you can use that to kind of pre-check what's going to happen when you run it. And then when you run confirm, it'll create those adjustments automatically and move everybody around accordingly. And then I think on top of that is just some little stats commands. So we can use this summarize activity command. We'll just look at raids over the last day, and it'll show us how many raids there have been in that date range. Obviously, in this server, we don't really have any additional info, but you can do a whole variety of ranges, including a custom range. So you can put a certain date in here, and it'll report within that range. There's also a guild stats command, stuff that shows up again in the UI, but you can show guild stats and it'll show you some interesting little things just in a card within your server. Again, this dashboard is that's what this does, is it shows you that same data. So you can view it in either of those places just as easily. And I think that's about it. Um, it can be a little bit tedious to set up. Obviously, there's a lot of configuration depending on how complicated your setup is going to be. But once it's set up, you can basically just run with it. In S.O.R, after we set up our stuff, we've just been using it. We've been logging events, logging recruitments. That's the two variants that we have, doing promotions, things like that. So it runs perfectly fine from that point on. You can customize it all to your heart's content. And at the time of filming, Tango is actually still pre-release. It's in its third release candidate for public V1, but know that there's a lot of improvements on the way. We've got quite the roadmap of features to add in the coming years. And we've also got a support server. As you'll see, the support server is linked in the UI, and it also gets linked when you log stuff so that there's quick access to getting support. We have feedback channels You can ask questions, you can create support tickets, whatever you need. We want to hear from you. We want to hear how you use Tango. If you've got ideas, feedback, problems, bugs, whatever it is, don't hesitate to jump into the support server and let us know. So that's it. That's a setup. I hope you enjoy using Tango. I hope this video has been informative and shows you all you need to know about how you can set this bot up to better organize and automate progression in your Discord server. Thanks for watching.